And how long ago was this above ground?
About
Above the
13,000
surface.
years ago, somewhere of that order. Somewhere of that order. That was the last time it could have been done above ground. Otherwise, nature, if Flint believes so, has done it. But I'm pretty confident we're looking.
What
at
is
what we
the
should do.
most compelling evidence that you've seen in an underwater site that of man-made construction or moving of stones?
I repeat, this is Kerema. I'm only showing a fraction of the slides that we have from Yonaguni. Yonaguni isn't simply that terrace. It's a whole series of monuments which continue over a distance of a couple of miles underwater. There's a huge stone face carved out of the rock. There's a passageway. Down at the bottom of Yonaguni, there's rocks have been cleared to the side away from the passageway. It's the combination of all of these different things across an area of 2 miles off the island of Yonaguni that make that one of my high priority sites for man-made workmanship. And the Indian sites are also extremely intriguing. And unfortunately, none of that work has been followed up, which is a pity. And when we come to what you call rescue archaeology, Flint, if we come back to Northern Europe, for example, I mean, the last place on Earth that I would look for the remains of a lost civilization is Northern Europe. Because Northern Europe was a frozen wilderness during the Ice Age, and any lost civilization worth its salt would not have focused a lot of effort on Northern Europe in that time. The place to look is down near the tropics, it's down near the equator, it's in places that weren't horrifically cold and unbearable during the Ice Age. And when you talk about rescue archaeology, this is one of the problems I have, is that there is no targeted search for the possibility of a lost civilization, because archaeology is already convinced that no such thing could have existed. So what we get is accidental discoveries. Somebody's building a road or building a dam. They call in the archaeologists to see if there's any archaeology that's going to be disrupted, and some archaeology is found sometimes. That's how the Cerruti Mastodon site in near San Diego was discovered, because roadworks were being done there. But this is not a targeted search for a lost civilization. This is accidental discovery. I would maintain that in the Amazon rainforest, in the Sahara Desert, in the 27 million square kilometers of continental shelves, massively underserved by archaeology, and in other areas of the world, archaeology's focus is on very limited parts of those, not on massive parts of them. And then, I'm sure you know this, Flint, that when we come to most archaeological sites, the amount of the site that is excavated is rarely more than 5%, and often less than that. And that's for good motives, to preserve the site for future generations of archaeologists to investigate. But again, it doesn't, I think, allow archaeologists to lay such claim to the past that they can absolutely rule out any possibility of a lost civilization.
Okay, Flint.
Yeah, I mean, so if you want to, Jamie, do you want to look up the site Pavlopetri, Pavlopetri? This is a site in the Aegean, and this is an example of kind of what, I mean, I can boot it up on my computer if you feel. So if you look at this, you have very clear stone courses, for example, underwater. And it's not just sort of stone courses and walls that we find. This is from a few thousand years ago. What we find actually are a ton of artifacts with it, right? They dive, they excavate, they pull up ceramics, they pull up stone tools, and they are able to therefore show that this was an occupied place. This is obviously not due to sea level rise. This is due to tectonic activity, that this is now underwater. Helike off the north coast of Greece also is another one that people have suggested might have inspired Plato's Atlantis, because it happened during Plato's lifetime that city was submerged underwater. And so we actually do find, from more recent times, actual underwater sites aplenty.
And Pavlopetri, what year was that?
I think it's from about 3,000 years ago or so. So like 1000 BC-ish. I could be off by a couple
Are you saying
years.
those are natural blocks at Pavlopetri?
No, I'm saying you can see clear stone courses that looks exactly like the type of architecture we have above ground. Mm-hmm. And so the same kind of stone courses. What you have
would
at
expect that from the
Yonaguni.
historic period, no?
Huh?
You would expect that from the historic period.
Yeah, we would. And so I would expect, though, if you're going to make an argument for something like Yonaguni, that it would look like architecture. Maybe even the type of architecture that you have.
Looks like megalithic architecture to me. Looks like rock-hewn architecture. It looks like the rock-hewn areas at Sacsayhuaman, for example. Jamie actually pulled
No,
up some
we
pictures
see
of those
many
steps.
different blocks at Sacsayhuaman. We see multiple courses of blocks
Do you
stacked
know
one on top of
Sacsayhuaman?
each
Have you
other.
been there?
No, I've never been there, Graham.
So how can you possibly talk about
Because
it?
I've seen photos of it.
Well, I've been there dozens of times.
Wait,
In
how
fact,
can you
I
actually
was-
talk
I was-
about
I was there-
archaeologists that
I was there
excavated?
just a few weeks
Wait a
ago.
second.
No, no.
Okay, but let's look at the images so we can
Let's
discuss
look at
this.
the images, because Sacsayhuaman is a very complicated site. Yes, there are huge blocks in the zigzag walls at Sacsayhuaman, but there are also huge rock-cut areas with steps in them.
I don't understand how being there lets you talk about it better than me. You've been there as a tourist to see how archaeologists have conserved it and preserved it and presented it for people coming by. That is not the same thing as excavating a site. That is not the same thing with understanding archaeological
Well,
literature.
it's just
to tell me
obvi-
that I've not been there, so I cannot
It's-
talk
it's
about
obvious that
archaeology.
you're ignorant of the site, Flint. You're ignorant of the
Why
site
am I
because you don't
ignorant
know
of
what the
it?
site looks like. You don't know
Well,
the
instead of-
huge areas that are
let's
cut out
not-
of solid rock. You
let's
just
not-
talk about blocks. There's
Let's
much
not
more to
bicker
it.
here,
to
and
that.
let's look at it and
Yeah,
discuss
let's do
it.
that.
Let's look at it.
How do you spell that? Sacsayhuaman?
Sacsayhuaman.
Okay, got it.
Now that's the blocky walls that you've been talking about.
Yeah, and that doesn't look anything like Yonaguni.
But they confront another area. You were showing us some pictures of it earlier, Jamie. A whole rock-hewn hillside.
I don't know. None of that looks like Yonaguni. This looks like actual architecture.
Yeah, it is actually architecture.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But this is not the picture that I would like to see.
Do you want to find it, Graham, and put it up through HDMI? Because Jamie
I
obviously.
mean, I
is-
know what he was asking for, but
You
I
had it up a
stumbled
few
across. I
moments ago,
stumbled
Jamie.
across it. It wasn't there on purpose or anything. It was probably in here somewhere, and like how I got there, I was clicking around. So
Let's see if we can get...
it's
And I mean, you know, part of the goal though is to also have a date. So, you know, like some of that stuff that you showed
there.
off the coast of India.
That one there.
Okay.
There's
that's
lots
it.
of this in Sacsayhuaman, Flint, as you would know if you'd been there.
This still does not look anything like Yonaguni to
It
me.
doesn't look like a series of steps cut out of rock.
I mean, it looks like a series of steps, yeah, but it doesn't look like. It actually looks like a room there. Even is what I see on the left, for example.
It's not a
To
room.
me, it looks similar, but not similar in that whole room area on the left-hand side. I don't think anybody could look at that and ever argue that that wasn't made by humans. I think that's so clear. Whereas if you look at, go back.
But I also
Back to
don't
the
know
image,
if
please.
this is Sacsayhuaman.
Yes, it is.
This is on Quora, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Let's go look and
Oh,
see what
it's
it's a
just a
photo by
song.
Santa
It
Fe.
is,
So
it
it is okay. By
Okay.
your wife.
So the difference to me is like there's some like instances like in between the steps